Okay, welcome everyone to our first edition of the GCFI Family Check-In. The whole purpose of this webinar is really just to connect the GCFI family. We've all been separated and we've been deprived of various means to connect over the last few months and probably for the unseeable future. So with this check-in, we're going to have a variety of sort of informal check-ins. We're going to have some general webinars and panel discussions. And so this GCFI student check-in is really just the first of many to come. So I'm going to get started right away, and we're going to meet our panelists today. So first up, I'm going to invite Holden to tell us a little bit about himself.
Hi guys, good to see some of the GCFI family again. I'm a recently graduated PhD researcher from the University of Florida. I'm still working at the University of Florida right now. My dissertation research was on developing a commercial fishery for invasive lionfish in the northern Gulf of Mexico. I've been to GCFI the last 2 years, and it's my favorite conference, and I look forward to going the rest of my life. I was honored to have received the student award last year, so I'll certainly be back whenever the next conference is, and probably have a job from there as well. I love GCFI, I love the family, and I love the opportunities. It's good to see everyone.
Thanks, Holden. And now we're going to meet Frederic.
Hi, everyone. Should I introduce myself? Okay. So my name is Frédéric Fardin, and I'm from Martinique, in Martinique right now. I'm currently a PhD student at the research group, Coastal Research Group at the University of Cambridge, associate with the UN Environment World Conservation Monitoring Center, also in Cambridge. But my research subject is on vulnerability and adaptation of mangrove forests and their associated fisheries to climate change, which is obviously topical. I have attended GCFI meetings since 2015, and I'm looking forward to checking with people who used to attend GCFI.
Thanks, Frederic. And now we're going to invite Lindy to talk about himself and introduce himself. Lindy, you need to unmute.
Oh, sorry, I thought I clicked it. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lindy. I am a student at the University of Cambridge, studying the Master in Philosophy and Conservation Leadership. My current research is looking at the re-wetting for restoration of wetlands and peatlands in the UK and in Europe. My first GCFI was in Santa Marta in 2012, and having been last year was the only one I've missed since then.
Thanks, Lindy. And finally, we're going to introduce Will and Melly.
Hi, everyone. I am a PhD graduate this semester. Just to give you a little background of me, I started in the University of Maryland Eastern Shore as a master's student in 2013, working with camera sled in the offshore wind farm sites in Maryland. And then I took a class. I was a fisheries major, and I wrote a proposal, and this proposal was working with King Kong in Puerto Rico, which where I'm originally from. So after that, this proposal got money from some reason, because we did a great job, I guess. And this research got me into my PhD. This is composed of two research. The King Kong, I did the camera density estimates versus the scuba divers to see if this technique works as a density estimate. And then the next year I was going sampling. Hurricane Maria affected the island, and so did my research. And I had to wait a year to finish my sampling. And that year, I took it as a learning experience. The fisheries changed, and our research did have to change. So we did some mesophotic conch habitat assessment, looking at conch in deeper areas based on their bed preference and habitat preference. And my first GCFI was in 2016 in Grand Caymans, and I'm really excited to talk to everybody about their experiences during the COVID.
Thank you, Wilmeli. And now we're going to bring everyone back onto the screen. Have a little party. So we've already started talking about how long we've first been to GCFI, but really I want to know a little bit more about your GCFI experience. What makes GCFI so special to you? Some of the people you might have met. How has this sort of influenced future jobs or even your research? So Wilmeli, do you want to start?
Okay. Like I said, my first GCFI was in 2016. It was in the Grand Caymans. This meeting was wonderful to me. I felt very lucky to be in such a beautiful location. My first impression of GCFI, it was like people were very welcoming. There was like the scientists were really relaxed. Everybody, the vibe was like super nice. In there, I met a scientist called, his name is Bill Michaels, and he worked with video cameras as well. So there weren't that many people working with cameras. And he told me they do like a workshop every year. So the next year, I was part of the acoustics and camera workshop, and the year next to it too. And I went to Mexico, and then I went to Colombia. And it was wonderful. Bill Michaels is still in contact with him. He helped me get into contact with other Puerto Rican students in video camera technology. What else? I really enjoyed the focus of the GCFI because the Caribbean and the Gulf organisms, we all work with the same organisms in different countries. Each country works with these species differently, and it's really nice to see how everybody works with these species that we all manage in different ways. Also, my last thing that I really, really love about GCFI is the culture. Like, they always involve people like from each country. Like, you can see kids from grade schools that are invited to the meeting, and they get to learn science with all of the scientists around it. And really, really final, I love the final party. GCFI final party always involved the culture of the people, the food of the country, and a wonderful dancing and happiness. And it's by the end date, so everybody's just happy, and it's just a great way to end the meeting, and looking forward to go to GCFI the next year.
Thanks, Wilmeli. So Lindy, you've been coming to GCFI in many capacities. You've recently been a student, but before you were representing the Bahamas National Trust. So what has your experience been like?
Well, as Wilmeli would have said, and others will say, you know, GCFI really is a welcoming conference. It is by far one of the most relaxed conferences you can ever attend, where people give you the room and the freedom to develop. So you see, in the time I've been there, you've seen persons come before me and come after me who've been there, and you've watched them grow up through the ropes of being at the conference, first as a scared student in the back, and eventually working and bringing others along with them. The fact that GCFI spends a lot of time and energy focusing on student presentations is one of the things that I like the most about it. And if you see someone at the conference and you see something about their work that inspires you or is of interest to you, it's some of the easiest people to just walk up to and say, hey, I just want to ask you a question about what you were doing work on. I remember a few years ago, I had been working on a project and I had gotten stuck, and some PhD student was presenting on something slightly in line with what I was doing. I stopped him, asked, and he just like, pull up your data, let's go through it right now. And something that had me stumped for about a month and a half was solved in 25 minutes on a lunch at Pizza Hut or something like that. Other memorable experiences I definitely enjoyed Panama, though it was probably one of the most heart-racing conferences I've been to, because it was the first time, as you know, I love to do poster presentations, but it was the first time I'd actually done an oral presentation. So that was pretty cool. And then in San Andres, I joined Fred with the education and outreach of the kiddies at the school, which was pretty fun. So of course, my grasp of the Spanish language is so low that I was thankful they spoke a bit of Creole that I could fully understand what they were saying. But yeah, GCFI is always good fun.
Thanks, Lindy and Holden. So I know that you study lionfish, and slowly but surely GCFI has sort of established itself as Lionfish Central. So did you have any major connections, or what made you decide to first come to GCFI?
Yeah, GCFI kind of has become the clearinghouse for lionfish research. Lionfish, like, of course, a lot of different issues facing the whole system, is not located to just one place. It's spread throughout the whole region. And if you just work on it one place, it's not going to do much of any good, because you could have source populations in other places that are refilling in those sinks. So you kind of need a central place to work across these boundaries, and GCFI has kind of served towards that. So that's what got me first interested into GCFI, because I was working on lionfish. And then I came and met different groups working on different things. One of the chapters of my dissertation was on lionfish traps and innovative harvest gear. So I was able to talk with different people, and not just other researchers too, different people working in different capacities. And I think that's something else. Of course, the friendliness of GCFI, it's so awesome. But I think something that seems kind of unique to GCFI, to some of the other conferences I've been to, is the cross-disciplinary nature of bringing in different types of groups. So it's not just researchers and people in academia. You have people in nonprofits and NGOs. You have people from industry. They bring in fishermen and other stakeholder groups. And so it's not just you get out of your ivory tower, and so you can work across different fields. And I guess that was kind of would be a memorable experience. I was the last year I was there. It was really important to me to give a really good presentation. I worked on it really hard, and I thought it was really good. And I think so. I got an award from it. And afterwards, I had someone come up from a nonprofit and say, "I'm about to get on a plane, but we had met the other night, and she said, you said you're looking for a job when you graduate. Here's my card. We have a position opening up as a program manager." So it's, I think it provides unique opportunities that you don't necessarily see at some of the other conferences I've been to.
Thanks, Holden. And yeah, that's happened to me before. People just randomly like, "You're exactly what I'm looking for, and here's my card." And I have gotten a few jobs just from my presence at GCFI and just meeting the right people, because I think GCFI really brings like-minded people together, and for people that are working towards something. And so, Frederic, you, like Lindy, have had a different experience in that you started coming to GCFI not as a student, but in the capacity from SPORAC, and now you've transitioned to a student. And then also you're on the GCFI board of directors, and you're in charge of education and other things. So how's the experience been for you since you've had so many different experiences?
Yeah, I was about to say that my experience was slightly different as Lindy now, because he's also back to school. But I started, so my first GCFI was in 2015, and I think that the fact that I used to work on the sargassum influx, which at this time was, all over the news, was probably what make me able to meet so many people and to work actually with so many people from different areas. So obviously researchers, but also academics, private sector, the hotel industry, but also fishers and civil society. And I guess that was critical in my experience at GCFI. But for everyone, we all agree that it's a place where you can have different groups all together working, to advance the knowledge on some critical environmental issues in the Caribbean. I remember, as you were talking about mentors, I remember that for me, being at GCFI, I felt very much welcomed by Jim Franks, because I was working on sargassum, obviously, but also by Emma at that time. And still, again, because of the sargassum, I actually used to host and facilitate. I facilitated the sargassum technical session once, and in another year, I think that was in 2016 in the Grand Cayman. And after that, also at my last GCFI, which was with Lindy in Colombia, I also was able to help Emma with the facilitation of sargassum meetings. And my experience changed after that. So I met a lot of people, very happy to exchange and to advance the knowledge again. But I also joined the board of directors, as you said, and that was another opportunity for me to be able to work directly, with the people that manage the institution. And, then when I joined, I think this is when I was the founding chair of the education ad hoc committee. And obviously that is a very important part for me because I love working with kids. And so we were able to initiate and to continue something that was already done the years before when I was not there, to organize educational events, environmental awareness with local schools. And that is important because in GCFI, it's not only that we go to a country and we have a meeting there, but we also collaborate a lot with the host country and with the host and with the local schools, and that is the aim. I want that to continue. Last year I was not there, unfortunately. I really missed GCFI and all the family, but unfortunately I was on the field in Thailand, and still I was very happy to see that some of the directors and some of the participants were able to bring together NGOs and local schools to have this educational activity that I missed, but still I was happy to see it from very far. And I guess, what I really love with GCFI is that we are bringing so many fields and areas, and at the end of the day, we are making, and I hope it's the message, like to make science more accessible.
Thanks, Frederic. And just a point to all our viewers, you can use the live chat to say hello, but you can also share your own perspectives or even post some questions to all our different panelists. So as everyone knows, we currently are in the middle of a pandemic, and for various students, this has meant many different things. So today we brought together these 4 different students, but they all have some shared experiences. And so we're going to try and figure out or talk some more about what their experiences have been and also how they've overcome them. So I'm going to start for our recent graduates. So we have Dr. Holden Harris and Dr. Wilmelly Cruz. And so we can start with Holden. How has it been having to undergo an online defense? And then, especially, I know for Wilmelly, you've experienced a lot. You've been, Wilmelly's from Puerto Rico, She's been through a couple of hurricanes, and she's had to see her fieldwork and her project change. And so how has it been having to, after you've done so much for your PhD, do you feel sort of underwhelmed at the whole graduation prospect, and also sort of graduating into a very uncertain life? So I think, Holden, you can start, and then Wilmelly, you can continue.
Yeah, I think you sensed it pretty correctly. It's certainly a weird thing. For one thing, it's really weird mentally when you're graduating. Most students will know this, that like it just seems like this thing that will never happen. It goes on for so long. And so it was really a surreal time period that like it's here, I'm defending everything, and then we're also kind of entering this weird unprecedented thing. Is, you know, it seemed like everything was kind of like a dream. At the same time, it did kind of feel like a little bit underwhelming in that, you know, normally you have a big defense and you have people, you know, there's a lot of people that were going to come to town. I was really looking forward to the defense and the party afterwards and everything. Of course, it's online, and then you get done, and then you hit end meeting, and then and then you like you go, you drink a beer, and then there's no graduation. And it's interesting that we, you know, I think humans, we develop these ceremonies for things like graduation and weddings and funerals to help kind of, you know, shift this in our head. And now we don't have that. So that's, you know, you have to cope with it. At the same time, I think, you know, in some ways I was kind of less nervous because I felt like there was so much going on in the world, and this was okay. And you know, in some ways it made me less nervous going into my defense. Of course, it's also scary, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at this, and that the uncertainty of the economics of the future. Most of the jobs I had lined up, it was like, you know, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, I felt like I was starting to get like a lot of jobs and things that I was starting to talk with people about, and kind of saying, hold on, I need to graduate first. And now fast forward this period, everything's just kind of frozen right now. There's really uncertain economics, and that's scary. And it's certainly worth considering and taking into my decision calculus that, you know, graduating into the worst job market since the Great Depression. Right now, we're at over 13% unemployment in the United States. It changes how you go about with your job outlooks. But I think there'll be opportunities as well. And there's nothing else but to make the best of it.
Thanks, Holden. So, Wilmelly, do you want to continue on as being a recent graduate, but also you can you have a slightly different perspective, as we just talked about, because you've had a bit more challenging road as compared to the others, because, as we said, because of the hurricane. So, what was it like finally finishing your PhD to then just click leave meeting?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I feel like just my luck kind of thing. But for me, like I'm in the state, I'm in Maryland. So Maryland took the lockdown really, really serious around late February. So we weren't allowed to go to our office, and I live in a really rural area. There's no internet access where I'm living. Like I'm using my phone as a hotspot. So that was quite a change, like to finish up like late February. I was like finishing up like the conclusions of my dissertation, and I didn't have access to the journals because phone internet actually is terrible. So that was quite a change. And then, you know, I ended up, you know, continuing, finishing up my conclusions and stuff. But then you receive feedback, and the feedback, written feedback is not the same as getting like, you know, verbal feedback. you can read those comments in some ways that you're like, oh, this is a little harsh. So that was kind of like a conversation I had to have with my advisor and be like, are you being constructive or not? And at the end, we work it out, and he was like, I'm just trying for you to like be the best you can. So yeah, that was a challenge too. I had a publication coming, and my publication was delayed too, so it still haven't been published. What else? So the dates for the dissertation, like I originally had my date since January. So in April, there were Zoom trolls, and so you couldn't do it on Zoom. And then I had to change the same week, like what kind of format I was doing my dissertation. Like Holden said, the dissertation was actually better to do it online. Like we didn't have any like but geographical borders. Like there was people from all over the States and the Caribbean for my dissertation defense, and it was great. Like my family that were not able to travel, like shared that experience. And I was in a comfortable place. I was relaxed. I wasn't like all that nervousness of a room full of angry professors. So at the end of my dissertation, when I finished everything, like I had like almost like 5 minutes of people congratulating me, and it felt so heartwarming. Like, you know, like having, it was different, but it was so nice to know that all these people were there for me, and they were so positive, so encouraging. It was amazing. But then in contrast, when you're in the side that they're in closed doors, my committee loved it, that they were so relaxed that it took 3 hours of questioning. On the contrast, like most people get like an hour and a half, so I got 3 hours, and it was like they were so relaxed. There were questions, recommendation, future research, but it was 3 hours. So then I passed, and like he said, there was no party, there was no like. I luckily have like a great group of friends, and they were like, let's do a Zoom happy hour, and we all had drinks over Zoom, and it was wonderful. Like Holden said, graduation, like it was really hard. Like it broke my heart. Like I thought like there was a hurricane. I took me a year longer to finish everything up. And you know, when you're a PhD student, you have funding secure for X amount of years. So I had to like really beg to get funding. Like luckily got funding across all of my PhD, but it wasn't easy to get it. So not wearing your doctor regalia was it was heartbroken, but I hopefully, like, you know, in the future it will happen. Like I said, I have a great group of friends. They photoshopped me with some regalia, and they were like, then we had another Zoom party and drank again. And finally, yes, the job market is awful. I started applying for jobs like in October, and I had like, you know, 4 state interviews, two federal, and after March, everything quieted down. Like I haven't heard, like I haven't gotten any more interviews. There's the states have employment freeze, so they're not hiring anyone. It looks pretty scary, but at the same time, I spent all of my summers doing research, and this is the first summer I get to enjoy, and I just need to be patient, and I think things will improve, hopefully. So we'll see. So I just say to everyone, just stay, like, just keep your hopes up, I feel.
It's so refreshing to hear that you had like a positive experience. And as Bryce has said, angry professors are the worst. So you had them, you were comfortable, they were comfortable in their own houses, they can get things to eat and drink and have snacks. So everyone was happy. And that's so great to hear that it wasn't a traumatic experience for you. And so Lindy, you've studied throughout the Caribbean, and you've lived away from home, and then you went back to working at the Bahamas National Trust, and then you got this amazing opportunity to go to the University of Cambridge, and this is your study abroad experience. You're going to learn so much, and then boom, pandemic. So
yes.
how has that experience been for you?
It's been rough, no denying that. You know, I'm the type of person that works best in face-to-face contact with my lecturers, with my supervisors. And so every time I went to school, it was always a minimal online component as possible, so that I could maximize the experience of being around and, you know, via osmosis, add knowledge that I just normally wouldn't get. And so when this opportunity came, it was a really, really good opportunity. So I get to go and I get to experience a culture that's different from what I'm familiar with all my time in the Caribbean, the temperature differences. And, you know, the one thing everybody told us was that, you know, the spring and the summer, it'll be great. And then pandemic. Thankfully for me, when the university shut down was like the week after my formal classes had been concluded. So I was able to get through all my formal classes, but that left me with a internship that's supposed to go throughout the summer that I now am being forced to do remotely, which, you know, working at a NGO for the summer was a good way for me to gather new experiences and learn new things that I wouldn't have from my time working at BNT, since my BNT experience is primarily fieldwork, which I love to death. But this was a time where I was like, okay, I'm just going to learn about project management now a bit for the summer. And now it's like, okay, yeah, I have to meet you every Tuesday at 11 to 12. That is my scheduled time to meet with my supervisors. Thankfully, they've been really great. They've like added me to the Slack, to the email chains. I've been painting and sipping with my remote colleagues. I've played quizzes with my remote colleagues. They're really doing as best they can to integrate it. But, you know, working from home, especially when everybody else is home as well, it becomes extremely difficult because, like, my folks don't understand the remote working. They're like, you're just home now. You have all this free time. There's plenty of errands we can do around the house to make up for, you know, you being here. The university has done really well with trying to keep us engaged and trying to work on our mental health considerations. But, you know, there's really only so much that you can do when you're sitting at home. And it's hard, I find, to, particularly at the beginning, it was really like you'd have 2 good days and then you'd have like 4 terrible days where nothing productive is taking place. And woe is me, and I hate how this pandemic is picking on me, you know? And then you sit and you think, and it's like, yeah, but I got through most of this. Imagine the next cohort that's coming in, those who are starting university in the fall. There's so much up in the air. But then I think about it, and thankfully the university has said for those of us who are graduating, next summer they'll have a graduation for us. So I can still go through the pomp and pageantry to, you know, say this is the end of my university experience, now back to the working world. In terms of the job market, it is a very scary thing, but I'm seeing jobs in the NGOs coming around, but I'm sure there's now a lot more people who are fighting for those same jobs that would have been prior. And unfortunately, you know, pandemics don't come when it's convenient for you, but it came right after like a lot of PhD deadlines and master's deadlines would have happened. So, you know, if you didn't have the ambition to go to school at that particular point, you're now being forced to have to wait, you know, an additional time. But it's been hard. I'm adjusting bit by bit by bit. And the thing that caught me off guard the most is that of my marked grades, 75% of them were due after I came home. So now there's no libraries open. Thankfully, the online journals have been available to me, and those that I wasn't able to find through the university system, which is very extensive, people have been extra friendly on Twitter. So you can get a lot of things coming in. But to be able to sit down in a place that's not really designed for Like my room is not designed for working from home. My room is designed for a nice chill atmosphere. To have to convert it over to a work from home environment has been a challenge. But it's getting better and better. You know, when the pressure kicks in now, you know, it's less woe days, but they do come periodically where it's like, this really sucks a whole lot. But yeah, I just have 2 more months till it's all said and done, and then find work.
Yeah, make it sound so simple. But it's really good to hear that you've, I know one of the things that I enjoyed about studying abroad was the connections that I was able to make with my fellow classmates, my professors, my lecturers, and being removed and not having that face-to-face interaction can be hard and can also make it really difficult to have those bonds. But it's really cool that you've had all these paint and sits and other games nights and having like sort of regular meetups. So that's been a really good thing to hear. And I know you mentioned that now your internship, you had plans to do fieldwork and now it's been disrupted. So Alejandro had a question, and we can sort of phrase this now for Frederic. So how have you been handling fieldwork and disruptions? And we can talk a little bit more about the dive-in aspect of it. So Frederic, you had some really exciting places to be doing fieldwork and traveling around. And how has that been? Does this now put your timeline a little bit behind track? So how has it been sort of readjusting to fieldwork disruptions and sort of your plans forward?
Yeah. So I'll try to give you a bit of background.
You can unmute. Yeah.
It's good? Yeah. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit of background about what my fieldwork is about. So because I was saying that my subject is vulnerability and adaptation of mangrove forests and fisheries to climate change. But I'm integrating actually socioeconomic and biophysical data. So for instance, I already completed one part of fieldwork. So I have 2 parts of fieldwork, one in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, and one in the Caribbean. So in Thailand, basically, I collected, when I say biophysical data, I'm talking about the variation of sea level in a specific place, but also I'm looking at tide goes and sea level rise, like in more broad areas. And then I have the data about how the mangrove is coping with sea level rise, so how mangrove is accumulating sediments to cope with some rates of sea level rise. So I'm integrating all of that with the perception of the people. And when I'm saying the people, I'm talking about the people who are depending on mangrove natural resources, such as fishers, and mostly fishers, actually. So I'm going to just individual fishers or to group of fishers, and I'm spending time with them, trying to understand how they feel or not the environmental changes, the changes that can be attributed to climate change. And then I haven't started, the analysis, but I'm just telling you what I'm integrating right now and what I'm collecting. So I was supposed to do the same thing now in the Caribbean and I was supposed to start in April, like just, it's after the beginning of the outbreak. And so I was supposed to do 1 month in Puerto Rico, in the south, and then in Jamaica, and then St. Lucia and Martinique. But I've been here since March now in Martinique. Actually, like my fieldwork is totally disrupted. Obviously, I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe that I had to leave Cambridge that fast, because what happened is that my college just gave us like about 5 days to, like they told us basically it's better if you can leave by Friday. That was the Monday. I left on the Tuesday night. I didn't even have time to say bye to Lindy. Sorry. And I was like, oh my God, Lindy, I'm leaving. But I think when I told him I was already gone or something like that, because obviously we also knew that we could not hug and say bye. So there was no real need to say, oh, come and see me and we can, But I thought that Lindy would stay there. So I was like, I'm leaving to the Caribbean, but I don't know what's going to happen. But I never thought that it would be that long. So basically, I thought that I was leaving and that maybe by end of May or June, I could go to Puerto Rico. Now, this is obviously not happening. I have no idea when it's going to happen, but I'm staying in Martinique. And it's all about adjustment. So during I have a quarantine of 14 days, and then during the lockdown, I was still able to go to walk around my my hometown. So then I decided to start fieldwork in my hometown, which was really weird to me because I guess when you are used to work in other places and you never try to talk about your research in your own country, it's quite difficult. And obviously, my hometown is about 10,000 people right now. So it's quite a small place. And basically, people know me there. So I was there going to the feature and say, oh, can I interview you? And they're like, oh, but you're the granddaughter of, It was quite weird compared to what I'm used to, obviously. But it's all about adjustment. And I'm trying to stay positive. I think now I'm thinking about the integration of these new shocks because obviously I'm looking at climate change and at hurricanes, that is more like acute shocks. And then there is the pandemic, which is an acute shock. But when you think about climate change, it's more chronicle shock that sometimes with sea level rise, we're not perceiving. And this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at if the people that are depending on mangrove are perceiving these changes. So obviously with hurricane, it's quite easy. With the COVID-19 outbreak, is easy as well. But with, other climate change problem that we have, it's not that easy. So it's just me including new things into my research, and it's not something that I thought would happen. Now, I'm looking at a new site. I'm looking at a few sites in Martinique now because I'm still here and I'm not sure for how long. And I'm seeing new disturbances of mangrove that are quite interesting and that I'm trying to explore as well. So it's really about including new things, not being shy to, not being like, oh, no, this was not supposed to happen and now I will not look at this disturbance, but it's happening. And if it's happening, fishers are probably perceiving it, so I need to integrate. Because at the beginning, I really didn't want to integrate COVID-19 perception, but you cannot lie in the research. So if people are telling you that it's affecting them, then you have to note. So yeah, I think this is what I'm trying to do. But basically, adaptation and resilience are very critical there, like right now. And we got to consider these two things to build, a better journey for the future, individually, but also as a collective. Yeah, it's time for reflection about what's brought us there, globalization, and all of that. So I think this is, I don't want to say it's a good thing that's happening to my PhD because I really want to go, to the fieldwork, and I don't know what's going to happen also for my dissertation and my deadlines because I'm supposed to handle my dissertation next year. So there is a bit of unknown there, and also Cambridge University not going to open. I mean, no, they're going to open, but if it's not possible, depending on how it goes, there might not be any, classes in big amphitheaters until June 2021, which is not affecting me because I'm not taking classes, but I mean, it's going to be a different life when I go back to Cambridge whenever is that. Yeah.
So thanks, Fred. And that was one interesting experience that I heard, that a benefit of COVID-19 is that it makes it easier to say goodbye to people. So you don't have to go through those awkward hugs and goodbyes and whatever. You can just sneak out like a ninja. No one has to know. And you can just say, oh, it's because of COVID-19. So we can take some questions from the audience. And so we have one that's about, has it been difficult to stay focused and motivated? And I'm going to sort of phrase that also with something that Frederique just talked about, in that she started talking about how her research has changed and because of new things that she saw. So some sort of positivity was coming out of it. So what sort of opportunities do you think the pandemic has presented to us? And we know a lot about all of the negative impacts. We talked about the lack of jobs, the lack of opportunities out there. But how can we really make the best of this? What positive things can come from this? So I don't know who wants to start. So whoever unmutes their mic first, go.
I think I'll go. And I'm just going to more or less reiterate what Fred had to say. I think it is a time of reflection. Given that 2020 was supposed to be the big environmental year, and we were supposed to come up with all these big decisions regarding the Aichi targets, the SDGs, pretty much everything that we were working for was this year. And this might have given us enough time to actually reflect on what we really want to achieve without the, this forced pressure. So as things get delayed a bit, you have to do the Zoom calls and all these smaller meetings where everybody can come together. Smaller countries, territories may actually have a bigger voice than they would have had in the large COPs. So I think that is I hate to call anything from COVID to be a positive, but I think just putting a pause and allowing people to reflect on what they wanted to achieve in the future and what they'd like to do is a good step. However, we just need to hope that as countries start to reopen, and I see it in my country quite often, we're just going to toss away all the old environmental laws because, the economy has to restart. So we could sacrifice the environment in the short term, but somehow we need to reflect and just continue to do better. So I'm not sure how successful we've been in that. So there's been pluses and have been minuses.
Will Melly?
I guess, if I'm not mistaken, the positive thing about this, I like what everybody said. I guess my perspective is a little different because I'm more in the doomist side. Like, I need to find a job now, but as graduate students, we are used to all of the things, like first try, it won't work. Like, you need to keep going. Like, I guess being persistent and just look for other ways, maybe other jobs that you weren't thinking for your future, and just be open to whatever come across and be prepared, and like just read, study every time you get a job interview, and just try to make the best out of it, and just enjoy the summer. Maybe it's the only summer you get free.
Thanks, Umali. You brought up a really good point about we can use this experience for some. It might be the first time that we've had any time to ourselves in a little while, but it can also be an opportunity to develop new skills or get back into other skills that we might have had that can sort of branch us in another way that can make us more employable. And just to follow up to what Lindy said, we have a comment from Bryce, also talking about what you just said, that failure to maintain protections in the new COVID world is really something that keeps a lot of us conservationists up at night. So as we continue to wrap up about sort of what does COVID-19 present us, what opportunities, or how can we make the best of it? I don't know if Holden or Frederic want to continue to add anything.
I don't know why Lindy is laughing, but okay, I'm gonna say something. No, I guess we spoke already about the reflection that we need to have, and especially, you know, I didn't want, and I'm not gonna say that COVID-19 was and is a good thing for the environment, even though we have seen that in some places, people are saying that nature is taking the place back, you know, but it's not really how I'm seeing it. I want people to realize that it's an issue. It's not like, oh, you know, nature is coming back, it's good. Actually, no, this should not have happened in the first place. So I really want to look at the issues and what is bringing us there. But in my personal journey, the opportunity that I've seen through COVID-19 is more about being at home for so long, because I think that I have not been at home for that long in the past 12 years. This is what I realized. And you know, you work in other places and you study in other places and you don't really realize, or because you know it at the back of your head, but I'm now realizing how rich is my island in terms of, you know, biodiversity, obviously, but rich in opportunities to make it a better place and to change. We are at a point that is perfect for reflection, that is perfect for a new journey. And that is something that I'm seeing locally. And I want to work at the local level now, a bit more than before, because I realized that, okay, as we say in UNEP WCMC, we can make change. And I think that I'm now seeing the part that I can play. And before I was not very conscious of that, because I was too far, you know, even if I love my country. Being here made me realize that, okay, with this pandemic, through this pandemic, we have seen a lot of solidarity. And only through solidarity we can, you know, move forward in the good direction. So I think if it's something positive, I don't know what you think, but this is my take home.
Thanks, Frederic. And Holden, so in keeping with the what opportunities can we bring to this, I also want to sort of add on to that question, unless we have 10 more minutes, so the audience can also pose questions to our panelists. But what advice do you have for students, either who are in your shoes right now, recently graduated, or students sort of coming to the end of their student career, also students considering pursuing like a postgraduate degree? Like, what sort of advice do you have for other students?
Yeah, I think it's a good time of reflection. As Lindy mentioned, the slowdown has allowed us to do that and kind of think about things in the world that we might be moving into, rather than just kind of quickly going from one step to another. And collectively, when the whole economy slowed down, we've seen the environmental changes. I think it really reframes how you know, graduate students will probably want to think about jobs coming out with the economy. I think, though, it's probably good to, like we've done here, is try to find, well, what are the positives and what are the opportunities and what do we do to make the best of it? And one thing too is I think it's kind of sped up the modernization of the economy, of what was probably bound to happen, but probably will happen much faster. Eventually, we probably would be having meetings like this, and the world keeps getting smaller, and we'd probably be having more collaboration across countries, across time zones, like we are right now. And this has really sped that up. And so I think one thing that I've done is, thought, okay, this is where the world's going. I should probably get really good at Zoom and Teams and some of these tools to work on things together. A lot of other companies have done that as well. Microsoft has gotten a lot better about you can work on documents at the same time. And that's, I think, where the world is going, to be more seamlessly of working remotely. And I think there will be some opportunities as far as jobs and things from that. For instance, I think it'll be more common that you can be working completely remotely and you can be hired completely remotely. You can work on projects that are completely remote. And I think for GCFI, it's something that'll be interesting to think about because we cover such a broad area. If you have people that are, a lot of times collaborations just kind of form in locally geographic areas. It's now becoming easier for us to work seamlessly. If I can do the statistics or do the modeling in one area and someone can be doing the research in another, or we can form these research groups that aren't necessarily geographically based, but might be based on different things like that. So I think it's worth thinking, and I think there will be opportunities from that. And we gotta make the best of it.
Thanks, Holden. And so we sort of started to hear from Frederic. And so Bob has asked, we can probably ask Nelly or Lindy or even Holden to come back in. Has your professional goals changed? And if it hasn't, you can just shake your head and say no. But has it, in this reflection, have you started thinking about your professional goals or anything like that? Yeah, so Lindy's nodding.
Yeah, prior to, and Fred and I had this conversation many a time. Prior to me going to Cambridge and going back to school, I'm always on the fence about whether or not I want to do a PhD. Me and Emma have also had this conversation many a time. And so there'll be certain months where it's like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. And then a few months later, it's like, but I love my job so much. It's kind of hard to switch it off to go focus on one particular thing. And had COVID not been in the picture, I would have graduated, I would have returned home, I would have gotten back to work. I would have been good for probably another few years before the itch returned. But then when it happened, it's like, yeah, it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, I kind of have to seize the moment. Like if this is something I'm interested in, I really need to make momentum towards achieving it. I mean, finding a program that's suitable for me is the difficult part, mind you, but it's definitely brought a higher percentage of my focus is on doing a PhD now than it would have been before. Before it would probably be 50-50. Now it's at least maybe 70-30 in favor of the PhD. But with this time of reflection, it's like, okay, now what am I going to do it in? Where am I going to do it? And is it even the right time to do it, given that fieldwork is kind of probably problematic until the time comes for the vaccine to be found, even though as we all now going through the process of having to live with the pandemic being what it is, it's just trying to balance those thoughts out while trying to finish my degree.
Well, thank you, Lindy. And we're sort of getting close to the end. And so just to get some closing words from all of you, I want to continue that question about advice or trying to sort of inspire the students who might be watching or will be watching soon. Like, what advice do you have? Some of the things I can think of, like as Holden said, is that you can use this time to really adjust and adapt, get savvy in Zoom and Microsoft Teams and use this time to really build your online presence, because right now that's part of the hiring process, because we're going to sort of be venturing into a way where there's no more face-to-face interviews. So you're going to have to show and get accustomed to these online methods of being able to like figure out emotions and things that you miss from that in-person contact, and being able to understand people's tone. Are they, like as Will Melly said, you can read something, it's like, is this positive, or are you personally attacking me right now? So getting that sort of opportunity. Also, do you have advice about using this time to develop a new skill? So GIS, learning a new language. I know Lindy's really interested in learning Spanish. So what sort of advice or sort of closing words do you have? And we can start with Will Melly.
I mean, that was beautiful. My advice would be, just try to stay calm during these times, and like everybody said, like find something, like relax and find something that makes you happy. Keep your group of people. Like for me, like I felt very lonely, like in jerk writing, and you're lonely, like having a group of people there as a support, like through Zoom or through whatever platform you use, that was wonderful. That was what kept me sane writing. And I just stay positive. I think things are gonna improve, and build a new skill, be really good at art and statistics. Most jobs are looking for that. So just get your statistics on point, and just be positive, and things will improve. I really hope so.
Thank you, Melly. How about you, Holden? Any closing words or any little bit of advice that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, to follow up on what Will Melly said, look for the opportunities. I was looking at like a postdoc job doing ecosystem modeling, and I'm considering that more now, because I think that there might be grants money for large field projects are probably going to be waiting for the next several years. But doing things that you can do, ecosystem modeling and some of that work, you don't need that type of money. So that's maybe an area to go into. So I think there'll be opportunities. And I think one thing just to touch on, and people probably hear it a lot, is during this time, is make sure you find there's going to be a lot of changes, is take care of yourself personally for that. Because a lot of ways, the plans we had are now shifted. The normal routines are all shifted. So I think finding ways to take care of ourselves, to keep that face-to-face interaction with people, that's hard because we're not hugging, we're not traveling. So things like this, I think, are really useful. Of course, we get zoomed out on Zoom meetings, but finding ways to keep that human connection, however it can be, I think is really important right now.
Thanks, Holden. Frederic, your closing words or pieces of advice to share?
Yeah. So I think people who know me would say that I'm a very passionate person, and it's something that I don't really like Lindy says that a lot. It's something that I don't really like, or that sometimes I don't take very well. But through the pandemics, I started to kind of embrace it, because I realized that at least I'm doing what I love. And my advice would be, really, if you are stuck in something that you don't like, it's time to reconsider and maybe take a step. Just a step, start something. Obviously, if you quit your job, don't even try to call me. I'm not going to take responsibility for that. See that with your employer, but not with me or your supervisor. But really, I mean, we have been able to, not only with the pandemic, I don't want to move to another subject, but just to say that we have seen what matters, and health matters, obviously. And now we are seeing all the discrimination that is happening in the world towards minorities, depending on their color, their religion, all of that. I really want to say that some stuff matters more than others, and so we have to make a choice. So if you love something, just go for it, because tomorrow we have no idea what's gonna happen. So yeah.
Thanks, Frederic. And Lindy, any final words or pieces of advice you want to share?
Just adding on to what everybody say, you got to take care of yourself first and foremost. Netflix and cartoons have saved me during this time period. It'll just be because when you try to force the work to get done, it never gets done. So you might as well binge watch a couple cartoons or whatever is your vice, and then come back and find yourself motivated as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Lindy, and thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of our panelists today for sharing with us and just generally creating that connection. And as Holden talks about, like, part of what we're experiencing right now is that we're beginning to lose that connection. And this was the intention of these sort of GCFI family check-ins, to really try and keep that connection. And as you said, we can get zoomed out. There's an abundance of Zoom meetings and online meetings and webinars and panel discussions. And really what's going to make this series different is that it's really all about the GCFI family and keeping that connection. And as Holden said, we have an opportunity to create this connection through, which might usually be limited geographically. So in the coming weeks leading up to the end of the year, we're going to have more opportunities, and we're really going to try and foster those linkages within the region and really get that partnership going, really trying to strengthen the GCFI family, which is so diverse. Melly talked about it. It's not just students and researchers and professors. We have fishers, we have MPA managers, we have people, I think we have more than 44 countries as part of the GCFI family. So thank you again to all our panelists, and thank you for the audience for joining us. And this is just the first of many more of these events to come. So I encourage you to stay tuned, and thank you again, and please enjoy the rest of your evening and continue to stay safe. So thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you,
Fadila. Yes, thank you to me. Okay, everyone. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.